How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Once again, my friends, Black Friday and Cyber Monday are upon us. Deals are everywhere. But when the holidays arrive and you're unboxing that shiny new gadget or toy for your kids, have you ever stopped to wonder, did I just invite an identity thief into my home?
Connected devices as well as social media accounts promise, fun and convenience. But at what cost?
Well, this week, Travis and I sit down with privacy expert, I feel like that's too weak a term, Jen Caltrider, to dive into some of the creepiest corners and darkest and dystopian corners of holiday shopping and social media.
Can we call her privacy gangsta?
Yes, we can. She's OG privacy person extraordinaire.
And with that, welcome to What the Hack, the true cybercrime podcast. I'm Adam Levin.
I'm Beau Friedlander.
And I'm Travis Taylor. Hello.
Hello.
Jen Caltrider. I'm going to sing the Jen Caltrider song.
Can't wait to hear it.
We just did. That was the whole thing.
Oh, well, it's excellent.
Because I was just in the woods and all of my words escape me when I'm in the woods. We were like maybe 2 miles in and there was a coyote poop in the middle of the trail.
I have a lot of coyotes where I live. Like we see them a lot and they're like just creepy animals. Like
they're sneaky little, they're sneaky little weirdos.
Yeah. And maybe I watched too much Wile E. Coyote as a kid or something, but they're like, I'm not particularly afraid of them for my dogs for sure, but like they're just kind of like creepy,
But speaking of Wile E. Coyote, we are in the business of trying to catch the roadrunners of privacy, horrid behavior, right? And I am the proud owner of 2 deactivated Meta accounts. And because I know it hurts them. I know they don't want them deactivated. So the other thing that I am the owner of is a Messenger account that wasn't deactivated. And the most hilarious part about that was my ex stepmother, who is now deceased, just asked me if I wanted $3,000.
Wow. That's
on Messenger.
Some Ouija board shit right there.
Or a coyote. That's probably what coyotes do all the time. They're like, hey, you want $3,000? Just come in the woods, dog.
Yeah.
Coyotes can use Ouija boards. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what coyotes do with Ouija boards is they ask you for money on your dead ex-stepmother's Messenger account. That's some, that's a pathway there.
That is a pathway. But speaking of pathways, it is the holiday season. Ouija boards do not come with privacy policies because they're analog.
You don't need them.
But I bet you have some thoughts about games where you might. It is, people are about to start shopping like crazy with reckless abandon, emphasis on the reckless. What in the game department, because this is going to hurt Travis's feelings because he's a gamer.
So we're talking video game consoles here because you can still go out and buy Uno and be safe. But if you're playing, say, Uno on your PlayStation, there might be a privacy concern or two.
The one game that I did play for a while, when I was incredibly nervous, I was very, very nervous. And so I have to say, I got into the Candy Crush landscape. And I did.
I haven't read Candy Crush's privacy policy, but I'm going to wager that Candy Crush is collecting some information on you and probably using it to make money. off of that information it collects on you, yes.
All right, so what's at risk in that kind of situation?
Well, I think in the scope of things, your Candy Crush addiction is only mildly concerning from a privacy perspective, given that all the information, our AI chatbots in our cars and everything else that's collected on us happens. But, I would say that, it's an app that you put on your phone. Again, I haven't read Candy Crush's specific privacy policy, so I'm talking a little more generally here. But, any app that you put on your phone is going to ask for permissions. And those permissions are things like, can I access your microphone and your camera and your contacts and your flashlight? One of my favorite is a Christian dating app that required access to your flashlight through the app. But the jokes about seeing the light are a lot of fun. But you do wonder, why does an app need to access my flashlight if it's not going to use your flashlight? So that's being aware of all of that. But then there's the data it collects. And so yeah, it's going to know that you're playing the game, but it also might be tracking you in other ways. Some apps can track you. There's the usage or what links you click in an app. And then it'll know, oh, you like to click on this certain thing about football every day. So you must be interested in football. People of a certain age and a certain gender that click on football links also like these other 8 things. And so that's where your advertising shows up.
Well, so they're all in the business of inference collecting and then using them against us to sell us stuff. And I think that, I always thought, well, in that Candy Crush world, it seemed to me like the other thing they could be really honing in on is how addictive your personality is because you're using it, how much you're using it. But it's nowhere near as creepy as today's automobiles. New cars can know things about you that would shock a porn star. And then there's social media. Forget about it. Your internet service provider knows so much about you. Imagine you had a butler who lived with you and they handed you all of the things you need to do, like the most depraved things that you do, or just the most private things you do. And then you will no longer be so excited about your connected toilet. So how did we get here? When did all of our devices start spying on us? What's the backstory?
This is something as a consumer privacy advocate since 2017 or beyond. I've been thinking about this a lot because when I first started researching consumer privacy, I was like, oh, your smartwatch, it collects your steps and now your heart rate. Now think about everything our smartwatches collect. They know where we fell, our heart rate, how well we slept, and how stressed we are. Data collection has exploded over the past decade. If privacy's dead, there's an argument to be made that we're getting pretty darn close. Well, what does privacy even mean? So back in the 1800s, privacy meant you went in your cabin and you shut your door and closed your windows and people left you alone. Great. I love that definition of privacy. But that definition changed 80s, 90s when we started connecting computers to the internet. Your data exists in the world. You go to your doctor and your doctor learns that you have a heart condition. That's data that exists on you. And the idea of privacy in our modern world is data is going to exist on us, but you have control and consent. Only you can control that data and you can consent where it can be shared and used. And that's the definition of privacy that we've had for a while. But that definition went way out the window when the big tech players started collecting as much data on us as they could, making it very hard to know when we consented to all that data being shared or having any ownership of that data at all. And that's happened. It started 20, 25 years ago. It's accelerated with the introduction in the past few years of cameras everywhere, microphones everywhere, our cars, sensors to know how much you weigh and how fast you're driving and how hard you brake. And then there's cameras shining on your face and microphones. The cameras in our cars now, they're starting to be able to tell what emotion you're feeling. And then we take all that information and we send it off to the AI overlords that have developed. And they process all of that, and they know way more about us than we do. And then the future that's coming, I'm going to guess that, Ray-Ban's Meta smart glasses we've always kind of made fun of smart glasses, right? They're coming, and they're here, and they're actually starting to get useful because they got a camera, they got a microphone, and now they have that AI processing, that multimodal AI processing. So I live right on the border of Quebec, and I can't speak French. So if I went over the border, they could translate in real time for me, and I would look less like a dumb American. But when we are all wearing glasses that see everything, hear everything, and process that all with AI, that definition of consent, that you have any kind of control of privacy, that you have any kind of control or consent over any of your data, is absolutely gone.
Jen, let us go then, you and I, into the dark of where we die.
Wow.
I think that we've reached a point where if you want to talk about multimodal AI and what it's going to be doing to us in the future, think about what the humble algorithm is already doing to people on social media. YouTube, Instagram, Reels, TikTok. We're already living a reality where if you are a heavy user of those apps, you may be surprised that you don't know what you think. Or you know what you think, but you don't know why you think it. I suspect that all the dystopian films we've seen, come out of Hollywood are kid stuff compared to what actually The Matrix is going to be a lot scarier than The Matrix was, because you're not going to know. Basically Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, whoever, they're going to be able to decide what you think. And that is the end of the world as we know it.
One of the tropes I always hear from my friends and family when I try to talk to them about privacy is they say, it's not a big deal because I have nothing to hide.
We all have something to hide. We close the door when we go to the bathroom. We don't share our financial logins with people. There are certain thoughts that we only share with our closest confidant. So we all have something to hide. The problem is most people don't feel any harm in sharing a lot of things. We don't want people to feel harm, but they might also not be feeling the harms that other people feel, or they might not be aware of the harms that we as a community are experiencing. I think of the example of Cambridge Analytica.
Cambridge Analytica was that organization that harvested data from millions of Facebook users without consent in order to influence elections, including Trump's 2016 campaign.
Yeah. So Cambridge Analytica collected a bunch of data on people through Facebook. Facebook then shared that data out with people that used that to target people politically, to manipulate them or coerce them into voting for a candidate. And I saw today that the Supreme Court ruled that the people that lost, it's not the people that were impacted by having their data sold, but the people who lost money when Facebook's stock took a dive after that story came out were allowed to continue their lawsuit. You guys should look it up. You might get the details a little more clear than I do. But I just saw that 8 years later, however long, the Supreme Court ruled, hey, you can continue this lawsuit, and that's great. That was just some data points that Facebook gathered that allowed them to create profiles on people to determine who's going to be the easiest to kind of convince to vote for a political candidate. That was bad. Now we have this world of AI chatbots where people who are lonely, and there's lots of lonely people out there, lots of vulnerable people out there, lots of people that are just curious. And they download these relationship chatbots and they, I need a girlfriend, I need a boyfriend, I need a soulmate. I just want somebody to share my deepest, darkest thoughts with, and it's safer to talk to an AI bot than it is a human. And so they're sharing all this super sensitive personal information with these chatbots. A lot of these chatbots, if you dig into them, you're like, well, who's behind this? We knew who was behind Facebook, right? Mark Zuckerberg. A lot of them, it's questionable, actually. It's not always obvious. And you get a few 100,000 or a few million users and they're sharing your deepest, darkest secrets. It makes Cambridge Analytica look like, a lollipop. It makes it just look like nothing. It's like, oh, so you like to post about your soccer league and you're angry about your ex on Facebook. And now you're talking about, your addictions, your sexual kinks, your deepest, darkest fears, and you're sharing that, and you don't necessarily know who's behind that. So the potential for manipulation in that world, it's really, really scary. And, you were talking about, manipulate you, coerce you, people don't know what they think, and now they're being told what to think and not knowing who's behind that. I think we've only scratched the surface of what's coming with that, and that's really scary.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
We're talking about AI chatbots, and I've used them. I've asked them some questions about how to get along better with people. Don't ask me why. I just was curious to see what it would say. I wanted to know what the vanilla answer would be. And the vanilla answer, I have to tell you, was so simple. And it was like, great. So I was, reading this and I was like, that's fine. But like, what about how my mom was never home? And here's the deal. AI now knows that about me. If it's benevolent, maybe it'll send me interfamily systems literature. Maybe it'll send me complex trauma literature. Maybe it'll send me to a rehab. The last one is quasi-benevolent, right? Because there might be a rehab out there that's advertising saying, send me everybody you think has had trauma in their childhood. Because I was using the Meta chatbot. They're definitely using it to send me ads, 100%. There's no way they're not doing that. Jen?
Nothing you do through Meta is ever private. I mean, they have horrible track record with privacy. Their privacy policies, I mean, assuming you can even wade through them, they're super confusing, are basically like, yeah, we're collecting tons of data on you and we're going to use that to make us a lot of money. Nothing that you're using when you use Meta AI through Instagram or Facebook or, whatever. No, that stuff's not private. Whether there is some world where the sensitive information has stricter privacy protections often, sometimes it's state by state. I haven't read Meta's privacy policy in a few months, so I can't say exactly what theirs says, but I can say their track record is terrible and I wouldn't trust them.
It's a bone sticking out of the corpse of privacy, which is dead.
Meta actually has just announced that they're doing a bunch of new privacy terms. They're updating their privacy policy. So can't wait to see what that one does.
Please, it's going to be in euphemistic, Esperanto.
Yeah.
I heard that a bunch of companies were updating their privacy policies and legal documents that go into effect soon after the next administration is sworn into office.
When I know my data is being collected, I will often try to just provide fake or contradictory information. I'll use the VPN and connect through Iceland. I'll give just wrong phone numbers, fake birth dates. Is that just completely useless, or is there any effectiveness to that in terms of protecting privacy?
That's an interesting question. I'm going to guess that the algorithms and the data collection that the big tech behemoths have built are better at collecting data on you than you are at thwarting their data collection. Give them fake emails or birth dates or things like that, but they still have so many ways to track you. Your phone, the advertising ID associated with it, the apps that you have, the usage data that you click on. They're going to know where you are. They're going to know a lot about you. Even if you do provide some information that's false, they still have the potential to collect a lot of information about you that's not false. Even your phone being next to somebody else's phone and associating with that, they're going to know that sort of stuff. It's really hard to trick them with that. My guess is that it doesn't hurt. It can be fun. It's probably, and anything that makes us feel empowered to kind of protect our privacy right now is maybe not a bad thing. I just can't guarantee that it's actually having that much impact.
What we're talking about is a world where, remember, I guess about 10 or 15 years ago that Yves de Montjoy wanted to prove that you could de-anonymize data sets. So he bought a huge number of credit card data sets that were anonymized. And then he crunched Instagram posts about food and cross-correlated. And then through seeing that somebody had eaten at McDonald's and posted a picture of it on a certain date at a certain time, he cross-correlated it to a purchase that was anonymized on a credit card and re-identified the account that way. Now we have digital natives who are like, that's cool, Grandpa. Watch this. Hold my Pez dispenser. All right, so we have, Pez is also analog, not going to tell on you unless, but your television is your, the toys that you buy for your children, for sure, are, all the home security cameras. That's probably an issue. That awesome coffee machine that's connected. What's the most alarming example that you can think of, or if you want to give us a list of several things that suck? I just think there's going to be a lot of people who listen to us who are open to what we're saying. They believe this particular worldview is correct, and they don't want to make a mistake. And if it means not getting a refrigerator that knows when to send you an ad for a certain kind of food, because that's when you snack, maybe half an hour before, here's the ad. So what's the worst this holiday season?
Well, I have a particular bee in my bonnet, and I don't know how many people are going out to buy this, but I see that the sales of these are going up, and it's those smart glasses. So these Ray-Ban smart sunglasses or glasses that, you got your camera and your microphone, and now they can process AI, or they're building it. It's kind of infancy stage. Some students at, I believe, Harvard, developed an app just kind of to raise awareness. And this is what kind of has been my fear all along. And it's an app that lets you walk down the street wearing these glasses. You look at anybody's face, and it'll basically tell you, their name, who they are. You can just dox anybody just by walking down the street. You look at somebody and they're like, hey, that's Travis, and he's, 48 years old and 3 times divorced, or, not a different Travis than this example. But I know that, again, this is, maybe people are going to spend more time shopping for the video games and, hopefully the Ouija boards and things like that. But this is coming, and this is going to be on some wish lists, and the sales are increasing. And the fact that, anybody can walk down the street, and it's that scene from Terminator when he lands and he's like naked and he's like trying to figure out whose clothes are going to fit him. And he's just like scanning everybody. And then he decides, your clothes fit me, so I'll kill you and take your clothes. We joke about that, but it's actually not that far off. And I think that's the thing that kind of really worries me the most, because the moment we're all wearing these glasses, which, and a lot of us are probably like, I'll never wear those glasses, they sound dumb, but they're going to be useful, like you can just talk, and you got your AI assistant right there with you all the time telling you to turn left. Until we think about privacy differently. And that's an interesting conversation, because if our 1800s definition of privacy, where you go in your house and shut your doors, no longer applies, and if our 20th century definition of privacy, where our data is collected, but I get a consent to what's collected and shared, is also out the window. Well, so what is privacy? I mean, we joke that it's dead. I mean, we don't really joke. We're privacy nerds. We kind of feel that it's dead. But what is next? What does privacy look like? And here's my thought, if you want to hear it. All this data exists. There's no putting that toothpaste back in the tube. The problem is who owns the data? It's your data. As the people, Travis, it's like, oh, I don't have anything to hide. well, we all have something to hide, whether it's, how often we fart or not. I don't need the world to know that. That's data about me. So, but if big tech owns that data, I don't have any control over it. I can't determine who gets it. Maybe that's data that would help my doctor. I don't know. But if I owned the data, if I had a black box in my house where all my data lived, and the company had to come to me and say, hey, I want to access this data to give you this service. Do you give me permission? And I could say, yeah, sure. This would be useful. You could access it for this one thing, and then you don't own it. You can't see it anymore after this is done. That sounds cool, and then I can revoke that at any time. I can go in and change my data, things like that. That sounds kind of cool. I have no clue how you would pull that off. But I feel like if we don't start moving in that direction, we're really in trouble.
Is there some sort of way that we could kind of begin that as a project, or is it just purely hypothetical?
Oh, well, I think there are people way smarter than me that are working on it. I've been talking to a friend of mine who is literally one of the smartest people I know. He graduated with degrees and PhDs in computer science and a law degree before when he was 21 or something. He's super smart. And he's thinking about, something that sounds pretty kind of, what? Data portability, and this concept of data portability, which is one I'm still kind of trying to wrap my brain around and learn about. But, if I wanted to take my data and take it from Meta and say, bring it over to Apple, because Apple's slightly better in theory. How do I do that? Is that even possible? Or if I wanted to take my data from Apple and say, Apple, I don't trust you anymore. I want my data to sit on my black box. How do I even do that? And so I think, there's policy steps, there's technical steps, and they are going to sound really probably dry and dull to a lot of us. Data portability, just the simple act of getting all my photos off of Google and bringing them to my little black box in my house and making sure Google doesn't have any of my photos anymore. It sounds easy enough, but is it? It's not.
Well, now hold on. Now there are companies. Shameless plug, because they're an advertiser on this show, but they advertise a lot of places. DeleteMe is a service that just works on that level. And I do think that a solution could come from a business like DeleteMe, where, maybe, if a company told me for $15 a month, I can guarantee you data portability, and you can take your data wherever you want, and you don't have to do a thing. You just have to, we know who you are, because the whole internet knows who you are. We will do a Ghostbusters thing and put you in the little crazy box. And all your information is in that crazy box, and now you can do with it whatever you like. Here's one thought I have though, Jem, because I just, deactivated my socials. Old data isn't as valuable as fresh data. So my data tomorrow from Meta is going to be worth less than somebody who's on now. And in a month, it's going to be worth even less. And in a year, nobody's going to pay anything for it, because it no longer reflects, we're talking about advertisers, it no longer reflects an actionable idea for an advertiser. And it no longer, I'm no longer anyone to manipulate, because I'm not there to be manipulated. I do think I was recently looking at a retreat, and at this retreat, they also treat addictions. And one of the addictions, I couldn't believe it. This is a place where you go if you have a heroin addiction or a booze addiction or whatever, right? Do you know they're treating social media addiction now at rehabs? You can pay $30,000 a month and you will leave no longer on social media. Now, if you think that's the rehab being evil, I think you're wrong. That's how evil the social media companies are.
They're good at making it addictive, that's for sure. I mean, Big Tobacco has nothing on big social media. Sure.
No way, man. And big social media has, through suicide and other outcomes, probably done more damage.
And I mean, and you know, remember Joe the Camel was like, oh, it's targeting young people. Well, the targeting of young people that big tech does with their social media is crazy. People that are vulnerable, people that are lonely, people that are young, just trying to form their ideologies and just being slammed with these really disturbing ideologies that are misogynistic, racist, hateful, and so prevalent online. I can't imagine being a parent trying to raise a child in this world where your YouTube algorithm is literally 2 clicks away from the Andrew Tates of the world. It terrifies me. With big tobacco, eventually we passed some laws and made it harder, but I don't know. It's really depressing. Happy holidays. Is there a good thing to talk about?
No, well, there is good stuff to talk about. And I think it is important to underscore that there are people and institutions and even legislators who are working really hard right now to try and address these things. COSA is a great example. Kids Online Safety Act. It's going to take more time to get something like COSA through. And we need to get something like COSA through where it says basically there are harmful algorithms. They need to not be pointed at children before we can get the omnibus through. That is really going to change things. But we're not in omnibus territory right now. We are in, can we get a foothold in our own privacy? And a foothold looks like deactivating your social media account and making that information old. That is something you can do that's antithetical to the goals of the social media company that has your data. What are the most practical steps? What can consumers do to vet products, privacy and security, short of reading the privacy policy, which you are very good at doing? What can people do?
Yeah. Well, one simple thing that people can do is, what we talked about, like, does the company that you're using the product from have a bad track record? Like, have you heard them, negatively? If you do a quick Google search, did it show up that they were fined by the FTC or some, regulatory agency for millions of dollars for violating kids' privacy or having data leaks? Like that doesn't take that long. And if they do, don't trust them. But short of that, and I know that kind of encompasses most of our tech companies at this point. But short of that, just dial it back. Share less. It's not that hard. Delete apps off your phone every, once a week. I look at all the apps on my phone. I was like, do I need this app? It's probably tracking me, and I delete it. I was just home, my mom, looking after my mom, she had surgery. And, whenever I go home, it's usually been a while and my mom's due for a new iPad or a new iPhone or something. I'm her tech support. And I got her set up with a new iPad and I just took off a bunch of the apps that she had downloaded that probably weren't the safest apps, Do that for your friends and loved ones. That's an easy thing to do. Go home for the holidays, be like, hey, Mom, can I borrow your iPad? Oh, this app here is probably tracking you. You mind if I delete it? And, she'll be like, oh, I haven't used that in 8 months. Delete it. That's just a little tiny thing, but actually can have an impact. But also, I think at this point, the thing that's going to make the most difference is pushing the regulators to protect consumers. And that is where we're in trouble. It's state-based privacy laws. The ones that do get passed sometimes are getting watered down or killed. I live in Vermont, and we had a really good privacy law that was vetoed by the governor, and then the veto-proof majority in the state legislature failed to override the veto by 1 vote because big tech is really good at lobbying about how this is going to hurt business. I just did another interview with a TV. A fairly big TV outlet. And they're like, well, when we talk to the businesses, they say these regulations are going to hurt business. And okay, business is making millions and billions of dollars and consumers are getting harmed every day. Maybe, just maybe, consumers could win one. And so, but in order for consumers to win one, we have to speak up. We have to download fewer apps. We have to share less stuff on social media. And we have to get involved not just every 4 years in a presidential election or every 2 years in, the election of our senator or our federal representatives. We have to pay attention every year. Like, does your state have a state privacy law? Is it coming up in your state legislature? Give your representative a call and say, hi, I'm a consumer and I'd sure like this. And I know they're going to say it's going to hurt business, but if you don't pass it, it's going to hurt me. And I think maybe those steps are the ones that we need to be taking more now than worrying too much about, the camera on my home, because we know the camera on your home is probably recording you and everybody.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtuo Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista-quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your Virtuo Pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Else, now that our cars can tell our emotions, who cares if PlayStation knows that I like to play Call of Duty all night on Friday night?
I am going to be giving away a present to at least 2 people this Christmas. I already have the present for 2, and they're analog. My fitness tracker these days is a mirror. I look in it, and then sometimes I get close to it and see if it steams up. I know I'm breathing, I'm good to go. So many generations before us didn't have these fitness trackers. Common sense still prevails. Along the lines of common sense, analog gifts. If someone wants to give me a carbide-tipped chisel about 1.5 inches with a really good steel shaft, I would be very happy to accept that. Don't just give me a book because you think it looked cool, because I'm really particular about the books that I want to read. What's another? Is that the takeaway? Just give analog gifts.
I love analog gifts. I just absolutely love analog gifts, and anything. And if, part of what I hear is like, oh, but, AI chatbots are growing because I'm feeling lonely. Well, buy a game, learn how to play chess, and then find if there's a park in your area where there's public chessboards and you might go and meet somebody. I'm an introvert, so that sounds terrible to me, but if you're feeling lonely, pick up a hobby, or just go to the thrift store and just play. There's some crazy stuff out there. I dug out Guitar Hero for the Wii. You guys remember Guitar Hero? Yeah. My Wii doesn't connect to the internet anymore because the servers don't exist, but I can still play Guitar Hero. If you can go and dig up Guitar Hero at your local thrift store and you can still buy a little Wii, forget about, the Xbox. Go get Guitar Hero on an old Wii and just have fun, because they don't make games like that anymore. Call of Duty has nothing on Guitar Hero, So just get creative. There's so much cool stuff out there in the world that doesn't connect to the internet that can still bring us together. And that's part of the joy of just sorting it out.
I'll say, Jen, first of all, I am grateful that you joined us, and I'm optimistic after this conversation. The reason I'm optimistic is because shortly after Christmas comes New Year, and I've already taken steps to start building my own black box at home for my privacy. You have inspired me trying to figure out who I am in the universe and what I want my particular part of it to look like. That is where privacy comes to play, because our intentionality, we can set intentions when it comes to our privacy. And then we can start living in a way that is more conducive to making that happen. And yes, it means buying the physical book, not buying the Kindle, and buying it where? At a bookstore.
A used bookstore is even better, because then you're probably supporting somebody local.
Jen Caltrider, smartest person in the entire universe when it comes to things privacy. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I can't top that. Thank you.
It's so fun to talk to you all.
It's time for our tinfoil swan.
Our paranoid takeaway to help you stay safe on and offline.
Let's talk about private browsing. In incognito mode, your browser has some version of it. Here's the truth. It's about as private as taking a shower at the 50-yard line at a football game, in the middle of a football game.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's fine if you want to hide what you're shopping for your partner for the holidays or something, or if you're on a shared computer, it's great. But if you think it'll keep Big Brother or Big Tech or Big anything else for that matter out of your business, you're sorely mistaken.
Private browsing only stops your browser from saving your history locally. Your internet service provider, the websites you visit, even your employer, they can still track where you've been and what you're doing.
And it doesn't hide your IP address, which can reveal everything you don't want revealed, and connect your activity directly to you, which you don't want.
You'll need a VPN to mask your ID and encrypt your traffic.
But do your homework before you choose a VPN. They're not all created equal. Some of them will sell your data, especially the ones that are free, quote unquote. So just, do a little bit of research and find a reputable provider.
And always remember, privacy doesn't end with your browser. We just heard from Jen how so many devices are tracking you. Check permission settings on your phones and other devices and disable location access unless it's absolutely necessary.
All right, and remember, old data is worth less than fresh data. So if you really want to mess with the companies that are messing with you, they're in your head, they're living rent-free, stay paranoid. Or leave the platforms you can leave. And yeah, I'm talking to you, TikToker, Instagrammer, Facebooker, all those things. I'm sorry, X, does anyone use that anymore? Blue Sky too. The less data you share, the harder it is for someone to misuse it. Always question why. Why does this app or website or new device need my location, my contacts, my email address? Seriously? Think about how much email you're getting. You can do something about this.
Stay informed, stay cautious, and remember, the only truly private activity online is when you're offline.
And that's our tinfoil swan.
What the Heck with Adam Levin is a production of Loud Tree Media. You can find us online at adamlevin.com and on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Adam K. Levin.
Behind every great meal is a person with a story to tell. Hear them on Culinary Characters Unlocked, the podcast that reveals the lives behind the food. Hosted by me, David Page, Emmy Award-winning journalist and creator of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, as I talk with everyone from culinary legends to mom-and-pop standouts about the creativity, grit, and passion that shape the food we love. Follow Culinary Characters Unlocked on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Behind every empire are the people history tried to forget. Lost Roman Heroes tells the stories of the remarkable characters who shaped Rome from its mythical beginnings to its final fall.
Each episode blends armchair storytelling, sharp historical insight, and a bit of humor to bring these lost figures to life. From generals to scientists, from rebels to empresses, from priests to politicians, these lost Roman heroes have one thing in common.
They stood up for civilization when the bad guys threatened, and in doing so, they changed the course of human history. If you're into history that's vivid, surprising, and deeply human, this show's for you.